If you somehow by any chance haven't seen the showcase or played the level yet, although it's highly unlikely, this is Pink Flash. It's my latest released fully completed level, and I genuinely think this might be the best level I will ever make. The last solo level before this that I released came out in September 2023, which was ages ago. As a form of post-celebration after this level's release, I figured out I might go through the level in the editor and tell you what went through my head, because like, how does one come up with something like this? It all started in this video over here. If you've seen this video before I uploaded this level's first and only sneak peek, you might have thought that I just wanted to make a layout building video for the sake of it. The truth is that I have had the idea for this level since a bit after this level's song released. Bittersweet by Surge. The color scheme of the song's cover and the way it sounded made it a perfect match to what I had in my head. By now I had the level's song, name, difficulty and theme all planned out, but just didn't tell anyone about it. Speaking of which, this is a very unique level thematically, at least in my eyes. It's themed around one character from the Angry Birds series who got her own game along with her new friends, only for it to be abandoned and left in the dust after 2 years. Stella, or the pink bird, but I will use her real name throughout this entire video. If you remember, her ability from the original few games was encasing nearby objects into ascending bubbles. That concept was completely scrapped for this game, and she got this sick dash ability instead. You know what this ability's name is, cause it does have one? That's right. Pink Flash. And that's where I got the name of the level from. It's written in all caps because I just thought it looked cooler. You'll see a lot of those white and pink speedlines throughout the level, and they are meant to imitate this epic trail that Stella leaves behind her when she uses that ability. Most of the level's look is based on the look of that ability, but also on the game's overall look and also a bit on the animated series, which is 10 years old now, by the way, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Before we hop into the editor, I just want to stop at the description of this level for a second. This quote was just taken from the archive of the original Angry Birds Stella website, but I cut the last sentence out and replaced it with, according to the diary series, Stella's catchphrase, "Game on." I have an entire folder of reference images that I use while building this level, so I'll try to mention everything from there as we go through the level. Right, enough scripted stuff, I'm gonna go into way too much detail anyway. Okay, so we're over here in the unoptimized copy. It has around 33.5k objects. Those stats are kinda outdated. The entirety of the level has 134 hours in the editor. So okay, here we have the first part. It definitely went the fastest. I gotta say, it has the most similar look to my previous levels, specifically with this block design. I just watched Domi Angeli's video of his unfinished work, and I saw him use this line pattern somewhere, and I just thought it looked cool, so I made something around it. And that's how this block design was made. Now I wanna stop at those signatures at the beginning, because these were pretty much just... I just took this idea from AudioVisual's self-titled level, where instead of Kawaii Sprite AudioVisual, I just put Surge and my nickname over here. Okay, so this particle effect, believe it or not, this was the last thing I added into this level before it came out. I just thought this first burst of energy needed something to represent it better, and so I added this particle burst. Also, apparently this click is broken, even though I didn't do anything wrong. This part is also where I met my best friend when it came to building this level. The Animate Trigger. This thing is amazing. You can put some animated objects on a group, and while normally if I disable them, they will just play their animation like normal, and that would look god awful. So I just put them on animate on trigger, and those two triggers animate them whenever I want. So it looks like that. This is also an imitation of the speed trail. It faded into obscurity as the level went further into being made, but I still like this a lot. This background is meant to be the speedlines as well. I just spammed a bunch of this object. If I could select it. This object carried this level, like, seriously. At least in its early development stages. At first I wanted this part's background to be like some Angry Birds type structuring, but I figured out that would just take too much effort, so I made this simple background instead. Rest of this part is really just pretty simple, pulse work and foreground and some art deco. I don't think I really have much else to say about this part, to be honest. There's a huge mess of triggers over here, which sets up everything later in the level. What is this? I guess this is the object that... Wait, no. This is one... So I don't know what this dot even does. Whatever. I guess that's the first part fully done. Fully explained. So now we can move on to the second part, the pre-drop ball part. This transition took me a bit to figure out how to make it function properly, because if I removed, I would just have the ground would cover up like half the screen, so it wouldn't even be playable. Okay. This sublet design, I might actually go first, since this was something I made on stream and I made it completely by accident. What is that? I made like a planet out of this flower symbol. This block design is pretty simple, but I really like how I used these pixel blocks. I saw, I think it was Peroxide and his little flower peak. I saw him use these blocks on the first part, if I remember correctly, and I thought that looked amazing. I wanted to do something similar. That's just what I did. Okay, not going to go into here yet. We still have some things to go. This part, I'm getting ahead of myself a bit, but this is the last part in this level in which the block design uses 3D. No other block design after this part uses 3D. So that's a fun fact I can tell you. The block design in this part was originally supposed to look like this. Don't know if I've said that or not already, but that would look awful. These palms are pretty random. I don't know why I even put them. I just needed something in the foreground, so I made it. And it kinda works. Those are just huge subblades. I don't think I have much else to say about them. I guess we can move on to this this ship part now. So I had a huge crisis when I was coming up with those subblade designs, because like nothing I made looked good. But eventually I got something that looked at least half decent. This block design is pretty random, mostly inspired from that one part in the middle of Liars the Beyond. I really liked that level. I liked the use of one of our space blocks he did, and I did something similar. Also, this gradient at 3 looks pretty awesome, I think. And the inside is just a plain silent block, and those are... Don't even know how to call those blocks, but they are on white blending, and it makes a cool texturing effect. This background is the first instance of frame by frame animating. I forgot to mention this, but where is it? This star was kind of my first attempt at a frame by frame animation. Those particles are also like barely noticeable. But this star is the first of many frame by frame animated things in this level, and this is the first huge speed trail. It's super long, but... And here we get to what I would say is the best transition I have ever made in my GD career. Topping even the monitor in Microsoft Mac, if you remember that. I love this transition, I love how it turned out, it's amazing. This transition is just a few overscaled circles filling up the screen. So first we have a couple of normal square structures come up, and then the cutouts of the actual structures appears. I made this with the brilliant Allium drawing tool mod. A very good mod, it just allows you to draw some shapes, like this, for example. Like you have this. It's a little choppy, so I had to polish it around a bit in some places. Like over here, you can see there's just a couple gaps in here. I guess that's this transition. Like the idea was simple. Creating it was a bit more difficult, but it paid off. I'm really proud of how this transition turned out. And now we get to the drop. This part. This background, those are a couple of scrapped block design ideas that I never use because they look terrible compared to this banger design that I'm gonna explain how I came up with in a second. But like this background with Stella's silhouette spinning in 3D in the background, this was the first thing that came into my mind when I came up with the idea of this level, and this background came out exactly how I wanted this to. I was popping off so hard when I made this. So this block design, I think you could see what I was doing with this already when I played those previous Stella clips in this video. Those are just the wooden platforms from Branch Out, but like a more GDified version. So why is this? Okay, it's like unnoticeable in motion, so like who cares? Just a couple of basic foreground leaves that I made. Nothing too crazy. This bunch I've made on another stream as well. Those spikes I added pretty late just to show you that this tire just kills you. So let you know that it kills you and you have to press this green orb to proceed. Then we have this transition which I came up with it kind of by accident, but there was one thing that I really wanted in this transition, that's this paraglider. There's a better design of this paraglider up here, and it just looks more like a paper airplane than an air glider. For those of you who don't know, this is just a huge reference to the, I believe, 8th episode of the first season of the Stella animated series, titled On the Sky. So you can see this paraglider wiggle around, and like, if I remember correctly, Stella just got traumatized after falling from that paraglider from just like a huge height, and she didn't want to fly it again for a long time until her friends convinced her to try again. This block design is just audio-visual coded, just a bunch of warped triangles, or these objects in this case. Those are fixed in the final level, so don't worry. And also this transition shows well how to not make your transitions blind. Like, see over here you can see this blue orb, and when the clouds and this background go down, you still know where to click, so it's not entirely blind. I mean, it is kind of blind, but not entirely. You have enough time to react. Plus, this is a demon level. A blind transition is more justifiable than like in a 5-star or something like that. This is also another random leaf design I made. Not much more to say, I think. And then we have this part, which I think is the signature part of this level. You'll see why in a second. I think this background is like really the highlight of this level. I'm really proud of this background. I just made 3 designs of 3D stars. This one in particular was inspired by... there was... I don't know where it originates from, but I found it on the Angry Birds wiki. There was this picture of Stella wearing a black wig, and there was a dotted star in the background, so I made something similar. Also here you can see some of my texturing experiments for this part. I ultimately ended up doing something completely different. I guess one similar design was used for these tiny blocks. Originally I wanted this part to have this kind of well, I guess you could say splatter background design, but it just wouldn't work with this crazy background I had, so I had to come up with something different. So if you look very closely, this is another frame-by-frame animation where this trail comes up. You'll see that it hits this sublet and it just rotates like crazy. Wonder if anyone noticed that. I think that's pretty cool. This is the part that I think had the most random assets spam out of the entire level. Like those are just Stella's headphones from one of her skins in the actual game. And they actually react to you hitting the ceiling as the UFO, if I can show you again with the time of trigger. So what happens is that there are a couple of invisible collision blocks here that just trigger this loop to make those headphones bump up a bit. So that's another tiny detail. At first I wanted this wooden piece to rotate based on some advanced follow crap, but I figured out that it was just too much work for me. Especially since I haven't made anything in 2.2 before this level. Aside from maybe Sweet Skies, but we don't talk about that. Those glasses, I believe, don't actually belong to Stella. I believe they belong to someone else, but they just fit in the part, so I thought why not just put it in. This umbrella has a better design that looked garbage. This one just looks better. Also, this background originally, if I remember, there's a gradient trigger here that darkens the background because this level is already super saturated and super bright as it is, but if I deleted this gradient trigger, you can just barely see the difference. I think it looks a bit better and it makes the level a bit more sight readable. I guess the last animated thing I did for this part was this book, or I could say photo album. The thing that's the main object of the plot of the game, which was never finished. Also, there's an unused alpha trigger here for some reason. Don't know why I left it in. Those foreground elements, this is just some random thing that I made. I just searched up tropical flowers, I believe, and went to Google Graphics and picked the first one that looked good and recreated it. This block design for this part I came up with pretty randomly. Most of this block design ended up looking a million times better once I added this outline to it. Like, if I remove the outline, if I can do it, I won't be able to, since selecting objects is painful. Like, look at how terrible this looks without the outline and how good it looks if I just add it back. Here just a couple simple gradients coming out to fill up the background a bit more. And here we get to another pretty cool transition. So in the actual game, once you got past a certain number of levels, usually around 10 to 20, you would have to wait as a wall of smoke appeared, and you would either have to wait a couple hours or pay with the in-game currency to skip the wait, and you could play another level that way. So as you can see, a bomb comes up over here. There's a purple flash this time, not pink, as the title suggests. And then we have this wave part, which is another transitional part. This transition would certainly be blind without with this flash. So I made this first click is auto, and you cannot. Your inputs are not registered until around over here, where the first trail appears. This effect with the trails revealing them, I guess putting out the smoke. I think that's pretty cool. I came up with that also completely on accident, and it ended up looking awesome, amazing. These coins are purposefully placed inside the blocks so people don't think they can be collected, which they also cannot be collected since the coins have no touch on them. The bubbles do not, because they can't be touched. They can't be touched anyway. They don't have a solid hitbox. This transition is also dedicated to the particles. Here are some particles. This is the particle that appears on the left side over here after the initial flash plays. And this was added very late. This is the smoke particle that plays when you die in this transition. Boom, like this. So I guess that's this entire transition covered. And here we go to the next part, in which I go back to my design roots a bit, but not really, since this background is entirely based on the screen from the actual game when you beat a level. This is the piece of land that the birds stand on. Those are the clouds and the sky, and also with the... I guess you could say circle, but I don't think it's exactly a circle. The... whatever out of stars there is over there. By the way, this part, I believe, does not have a single skip in it. If you find a skip in this part, and you send it to me, you have 10 out of 10 vision. So I believe this part does not have a single skip in it, even before and after the playtesting. This branch, I guess, feels kinda out of place, but I had no idea what else to put here. So I just did that. So this star is also kinda ripping off AudioVisual with those thin lines, which you can also see are very crusty, but in motion it's like unnoticeable. Those stars are pretty random and also kinda unnoticeable, but I guess they fit. And then we get to the next transition. This block design is very Y-Made inspired, particularly by the second part. So I believe this is... No, this is not the only part of the level that has jump indicators. There's the jungle part also has some. There are just some stars, another speedline, and I don't know why I made this 3D. I don't know what this thing is called in English. A pyramid of some sort, I guess I could say. Then we have another one of those covering the whole screen, and then we have this part. This block design, it went through lots of revisions. I didn't know what to do with it originally, but I ended up making this rounded design, which I think looks pretty sick. Also layering issues, but like that's barely noticeable. This is also very AudioVisual coded, just some very simple art deco. Here are some more unused assets and some used ones as well. This particle plays every time one of those stars appears, which is also frame by frame animated, as you can see over here. And this effect with those orbs appearing is pretty funny, cause if I can find the layer that it's on. Yeah, so this is just one object. This is this object, but just warped and scaled up a bit. Those flowers... I wanted those flowers to appear all the way back in this part first, but they didn't seem to fit, also I couldn't make a good design for them. But later on I ended up remaking them, and they actually ended up looking pretty sick, and I think they fit into this part a lot. This is pretty random, but I just wanted some random symbol in this part to fill up space, so I made this. Those are small and medium saw blades that I used to copy and paste through the entire part. This didn't end up being used. This part would look terrible if I used them, honestly. And then we have this rope, which I used in 2 spots in this part, I believe. Over here, on this block, which swings back and forth a bit once you touch it. There's a spawn trigger over here that triggers something, I don't remember where exactly it is. Oh, it's over here. And then this one, which doesn't rotate, but that's to be expected. And the background for this part is reminiscent of... I'm gonna pull up my folder over here. It's based on the actual levels on the randomly generated levels on the island that you'd find in the actual game. There are just these spawns, and that's pretty much it. And some of these clouds that are used to imitate the leaves on the bottom, I guess. Okay, this huge flower, it was inspired by the big golden flower that you find at the end of Branch Out. I didn't want to copy it exactly one-to-one, so I made something similar to it. Just a star-shaped flower with a blue center, and it slightly rotates, but it's like barely noticeable. And I guess that's pretty much it for this part. Some random camera guide trigger. I originally wanted this part to have some UI on top, but I didn't know what to put on top of the screen, so I just left it as it was. And now we get to the two final parts, which are the jungle part, or the home tree part, and the beach part. Before we hop into this part, one of the playtesters, Marchi, told me that this part feels kinda out of place, and I kinda see where he's coming from, but I feel this fit as a nice antique to this level. Okay, now for the jungle part. This is easily the most complex block design I will ever make structuring-wise. I will never make another block design with this kind of structuring, like, probably ever again. So, I guess enjoy it while you can. This leaf pattern I pretty much just took from Nevek's part in Honeydew. Okay. There's this explosive current blackberry, I don't know what you would call it, that blows up this gilded wood over here. I wanted to blow something up, but I didn't know what, so... It also feels a bit out of place, but I guess it fits. So... I forgot to mention this transition. This transition, I think, ended up also looking quite sick. Those leaves are imitating the screen transition whenever you transition between two stages in Stella. Actually, whenever you like enter a level or something, there are those couple of leaves that come onto the screen, and then the others in loads. This star is just something that I added for fun, because I just thought the last snare needed something to be represented by as well. Just a bunch of negative invert gradients coming down onto these blocks. They just have white blending glow on top of them, nothing too crazy. And then this part has a pretty subtle foreground, which is this leaf particle effect. They just drop down a bit, and they are slightly pixelated. I kinda took this from the Promenade of the Condemned in that source. I thought that those leaves would add to the atmosphere nicely of this part, which I guess they did. I originally wanted to have more of the lost and found items in this part, but I only ended up doing the surfboard, and only the surfboard. I wanted to have probably the trekking gear as well, but I didn't have space anywhere, so I only ended up doing that. Those trees in the background, if you looked carefully, that scene that I played in the showcase and also in this video a bit earlier, those trees were in the background of that scene, and I recreated them for the background of this part. And those foreground elements are a bit random, but I guess they also fit. So just a couple of random plants, some flowers, mushrooms, and grass on top of these blocks to make it actually feel like a jungle and not... I don't know if this is more of the jungle or the home tree. Guess it's both. This background was also taken from that scene. or I guess inspired by, just some squares with rounded corners. Or just rounded squares. More so rounded squares, and I just warped them around, and don't know if I have much else to say about this part, to be honest. Like, what else can I say? This is really simple. One thing I also really like about this part is this glow is very subtle, but it just pulls us to these vocal chops in the background. Those quiet ones. If you listen closely. Okay, not much else to say about this part. We're on to the final part, the beach part. And believe it or not, this was not the part that was finished last. This part was not even started, but this was finished at some point. I guess I should start with the background. This is a pretty complex background for my liking. It's 4 layers of clouds, particularly inspired by the first part in Astrolith. Actually, with those light rays on the top of the screen as well. This sandstone design was pretty cool, I think. So I really like this this back layer of this sandstone. I think this looks really cool. It's just a couple of bricks with some darkened glow. I thought regular filled saw blades would just fit into this part, and I guess they did. Also, a pretty stupid fun fact about me is that I've never been to a beach in my entire life, so I had to improvise a lot when it comes to making some of these assets, like this beach chair. I guess it was inspired by one other photo from the actual game. This umbrella on that photo was originally wooden. I made my own one. I didn't want to make that umbrella overlap with the actual structures of the level. And then the rest are pretty simple things. There's not much else to say. The most complex thing about this part is definitely the background, and the entire thing fades out and it shows this pretty cool night background. I like this. I just placed some random stellar looking objects and made a night sky. And that's pretty much the whole level. This random toggle trigger is... you can actually skip this cube portal, but it's incredibly precise, and this text appears on the end screen if you do that skip. It was originally something else, but I changed it later on. And so I guess that's the entire level. It has a golden dedication to AudioVisual, because he was the creator I was definitely inspired by the most when making most of this level. Definitely evident in this part, probably most of this as well, and over here. So yeah, I guess that's my entire thought process on Pink Flash. This is the best level I have ever made, and like there's no way something is going to top it anytime soon. It got sent 3 times in the first 24 hours of being uploaded, but it's still unrated for now. I still hope it can get rated in the near future. So I guess that will be it for this video. Thank you for watching. You know what to do if you enjoyed the video. And I guess I will see you later.